in kind of different positions right now as it pertains to the Players' Championship. Hunter Nance in a very commanding position, would be in right now if things were to end today, but looking to solidify his position. For Andrew Jessup, trying to play catch up a little bit within striking distance, and a win this afternoon would be a huge deal for Jessup.
Well, we'll get into the match. Andrew Jessup is on Abs on aggro. He's on the play as we go over to Hunter Nance. Warden of the first tree from Hunter Nance. He's on Obs on blue. Jessup is on Obs on aggro. And Jessup will have a response here. Goes ahead and gets basics. That will set up his battle lands. For those of you wondering, some of the other players on win-ins, we'll get as many of these as we said as we can. We have Shaheen Sarani, Todd Anderson, and Eric Smith all playing for spots in top 8, all in different matches as well. And this will be Hangerback Walker from Jessup's side. So from Hunter, Warden will swing in, pump up to a 3-3. Jessup down to 15 as we go to turn 3. And in this matchup, Hangerback Walker, a good one. It's slow, but if we get into a grindy enough game, it could do some damage here.
Yep, it's a card where, you know, it can be on the slow side in a percentage of games. There's also Obs on Charm floating around in Nance's deck, so he does have a clean answer to it. But if there's no Obs on Charm involved, Jessup does accrue a pretty substantial advantage over time.
So for Andrew Jessup, and I do love this out of the Obs on decks, we start off on Forest Plains into, well, blue-black dual land. Why not?
Basic Plains, Basic Forest, Underground Sea. Pretty straightforward opening.
Hangerback Walker is going to pump up to 2, and now Dramoka's Command. And I like this from Andrew Jessup. It'll fight down Warden of the first tree.
And I also like this play from Jessup because he's not trying to do too much here. This is a great opportunity to cash in Hangerback Walker and avoid the consequences of Obs on Charm if the Hangerback Walker sits in play for too long.
Yeah, so we start turn 3. Hunter Nance has no board. Jessup has 3 Thopters. This looks pretty good from Jessup's side. We'll see if Nance has a response. He does not. We go back to Andrew Jessup.
Very good against spot removal. Very good against Planeswalkers also. A good opening for Jessup.
And here is a swing. 3 Thopters will put Nance down to 17. Andrew Jessup, we see 15th in the Players' Championship race, hoping to join his brother in the Players' Championship. Danny Jessup securing it with the Season 3 Points Championship. For Andrew, though, a top 8 would really be necessary. And he'll play Anafenza, Shambling Vent, and pass back. We'll see if Nance has a kill spell here.
Would stand to reason this is a good spot for Obs on Charm, and Nance's list does play the full 4 copies.
Just checking his hand to see exactly what duel he wants to get here. It'll be Canopy Vista. And not Obs on Charm, but close enough. It'll be Murderous Cut as he delves away the rest of his yard. Takes care of Anafenza and moves to turn 4. Now, despite the fact that Jessup is ahead here on the board, you have to remember in these Obs on mirrors, everything can be undone by something like Siege Rhino.
Yep, although having a spread of 1/1 flyers here is so good for Jessup because Nance can't really play catch-up with spot removal spells. It's not a realistic way to answer these Thopters. If he's trying to play catch-up with cards like Siege Rhino, he can certainly do that, but then he's very vulnerable to spot removal spells from Jessup.
Now, one of the different things I want to point out here in their 2 lists is that Nance, by playing Obs on blue, seems to have a lot more size on his side. In addition to 4 Siege Rhinos, he has this card, which is Woodland Wanderer. He's here as a 3 of. He's going to cast this as a 6/6 trample on turn 4.
Good in a variety of matchups. Maybe not as best here, as we know, Obzon is equipped with a lot of clean answers to large creatures. Jessup's a little bit on the shorter side as far as these things go. He's only got 4 copies of Obs on Charm, 1 Murderous Cut in the main deck to go along with 4 copies of Dramoka's Command, which can't really kill a creature of this size.
Yeah, I was going to say Dramoka's Command, it would need a lot of work to get up to 6/6, but you're right. Obs on Charm is a clean answer, and Jessup has just that. He'll exile the Woodland Wanderer, swing in, and put Nance down to 13.
And it's so important in this matchup to keep the board clean because the most important card is Wingmate Rock. And as long as you can keep your opponent's board empty, you have to worry a lot less about that card.
Yeah, Wingmate Rock's great when it's rated. If they have a creature, then if you can keep their board clean of creatures, it also turns off cards like Dramoka's Command. For Nance, his follow-up was a 2/2 Hangerback. And we go over to Jessup. Jessup ahead on creatures, ahead on life points. Looking good here. We see if he can keep the pressure on.
And right now, Jessup just trying to see, is there any way for him to lessen the impact or avoid altogether Wingmate Rock on the other side of the table?
Yeah, Wingmate Rock is such a game changer, especially when it's rated. He would like to keep the hanger back down, not let it attack. That's a tall order, though. So we go to Jessup's side. He has a 5th land. And we'll see what his follow-up is. I mean, a Wingmate Rock of his own, of course, would be the gold standard here, but...
If Jessup was giving it this much thought, I'd be surprised. It's a no-brainer turn if he's got Wingmate Rock. 2 copies in his main deck.
Yeah, it looks like it's Den Protector. And he wants to fetch ahead of time in case Hunter has some sort of kill spell for it.
Yeah, no reason to get fancy. He knows for sure he's going to be using his Den Protector on something. Doesn't know what yet, but there's no reason to pass the turn, then fetch, and have your Morph get killed in response.
And Nance looks through the graveyard, seeing what Jessup can get. Jessup has lands, Obzon Charm, Hangerback Walker, and Dromoka's Command all in the yard. And here comes Hangerback Walker. Nance hoping to get it to trade, but that's hopeful indeed. Jessup will take 2. Nance dropping to 9. It's interesting in this matchup, Hangerback actually as a ground pounder doesn't seem too relevant. You're really trying to get your own Hangerback Walker to get killed.
Yep, and you can engineer it a couple ways. Dromoka's Command is really the combo you're looking to execute. And we saw that early on in the game from Jessup. That's the best way to get a ton of value out of Hangerback Walker.
Here's the swing, and now you were talking about how this was Jessup's worry. No, he could not stop it from happening, and Nance does have one. One of his 2 copies of Wingmate Rock will now be cast with Raid thanks to Hangerback Walker. So Nance behind on life points, but a pair of 3/4 flyers will go a long way in helping to fix that. Now the question is, can Jessup sneak across for the last points of damage, maybe kill off those birds?
Well, he does have the ability to use Den Protector to get back a removal spell for the original Wingmate Rock, and he can still kind of go wide. It's going to be hard for him to finish off the game just with the stuff that he has in play, but killing the original Wingmate Rock, having some leftovers in hand, he might be able to squeak past the last couple of points. Worth noting, though, even though Jessup feels like he's been on the aggressive the entire game, Jessup's life total is fairly low as well.
Yeah, Den Protector will get back Obzon Charm on end step. We'll see whether he chooses to try to use it to get the Den Protector through or to kill Wingmate Rocks. So he draws for the turn. Nance at 9. If Nance swings out the team here, he'd go up to 12. There's a chance that Jessup could try to get Den Protector through as opposed to going for kill spells, but it's very risky.
I think that's you're beat by a removal spell, and you also just might lose the race to Wingmate Rock and the attack trigger. I think Jessup does have to get the Wingmate Rock off the table. The question is, does he attack with everything after the fact? If he does that, you assume the token is going to block the Den Protector. You knock him to 6. Jessup also has a Gideon in play, so there's the possibility that he could, next turn, play Gideon, make an emblem, and attack for the kill.
See a lot of options for him. It looks like he will go for Gideon this turn.
Well, he can also play Gideon, make an emblem. That means the Den Protector can no longer be blocked by the Wingmate Rock. Knocks Nance down to 5.
I like this play a lot. Gideon, make an emblem. So this one's pretty clever. So he gets to hit Nance down to 5. And keep in mind that if Nance taps out for something, Jessup can just simply use Obzon Charm perhaps to pump and just swing for lethal if Nance isn't careful.
Yep, and Jessup gets a hit for 4 points of damage this turn, which makes up for the attack that Nance has on the way back. He can only gain 3 at maximum. That's if he's willing to attack with everything, and that's a pretty substantial risk with the amount of presence on the board Jessup has right now.
Yeah, I really like this line by Jessup. It puts a lot of pressure on from a lot of different ways on Hunter.
Also, I believe Jessup has another copy of Obzon Charm in hand on top of the one that he got back with the Den Protector. So this sets him up where if he draws the 6th land, he can flurry of pump spells, bunch of removal spells. There's a lot of good lines he can take.
So we go back over to Hunter Nance. He's down on life points, but has 2 flyers. A lot of good stuff in hand. He does appear to have a copy of Dromoka's Command as well in hand. So he's going to start with a swing with the 2 birds. It's a life gain of 2. Nance goes up to 7.
And Dromoka's Command is ideal here for Nance as it allows him to use Hangerback Walker to fight and trade with the Den Protector, breaks open the Hangerback Walker. Now he has a bunch of chump blockers against Jessup's Thopters and can really start applying a lot of pressure with Wingmate Rock, gaining some life on the way back.
So what was the thought behind Hunter not swinging Hangerback Walker here if he's going to have it fight Den Protector?
It's possible he's trying to go for some fanciness inside of combat, but that seems very risky to me. It's so good on the surface right now for Nance to just make the conservative play, trade with the Den Protector, and get the Thopters.
You really just don't want something to go wrong when you go for that play.
Yeah.
It's going to pump Hangerback Walker.
I suppose doing it this way, he gets one more Thopter for his trouble. I'm not sure if that's better than dealing 2 and getting another life.
Yeah, remember, Den Protector is a 4/3. So yeah, he can go counter on Walker, have it fight Den Protector, and because of that Gideon emblem, there'll still be a trade.
Yep.
4 Thopters in play now for Hunter. So I suppose it was 1 life or 1 Thopter was his choice. And he went for 1 Thopter. And he'll pass back. Now without his Den Protector, Andrew has far fewer ways to get those last points of damage across. Great plays here on both sides. We'll see which one, I loved Jessup's line last turn, but Hunter with the counter here.
Yep. I mean, Jessup, I like the line that he went for. It was very vulnerable to Dromoka's command. Nance had it, and now Jessup's in some trouble.
Not safe to attack, even though his Thopters are 2/2s to Nance's 1/1s. He's got to be worried. He'd be taking too much in the air on the way back. He'll play Hangerback Walker on 1. Remember, that's a 2/2 thanks to the Gideon's emblem.
The upshot, though, is, Jessup still has the Abzan Charm in hand. Nance can't make great attacks on the face of it. You assume Jessup goes ahead and uses the Abzan Charm to exile the Wingmate Rock. And then you got 3 2/2 flyers back on defense against 1/1s and 3/4s. It's not the easiest attack to make. And Nance has to be concerned about dying on the way back to a variety of things.
Okay, all right. So I'm on board. So Jessup can play the control strategy a bit.
He can't beat an excellent hand here for Nance, but if Nance's hand is not great, he may not be able to punch through.
Well, he's going to let Nance go to attacks, and when Nance enters combat, Abzan Charm will be cast on the original Wingmate Rock. But Hunter, he may have an answer here. Dromoka's command will have that Wingmate Rock fight down a Thopter and put a counter on one of his own Thopters. And then here's a swing with the team. So even if Andrew blocks the 2 biggest creatures, he's taking 3. He has to block both of them or he's dead. So he's going to lose both his Thopters here.
Yep.
Yeah. Jessup's hand is forced by Hunter. And it looks like an Abzan Charm from Hunter Nance, perhaps, to put 2 more counters on will make it lethal. Game 1 over to Hunter Nance. It actually was not an Abzan Charm. It was a post-combat Rhino, but that'll do the trick.
Yeah, it's the same deal. Jessup is forced to block with everything there. Nance sneaks across a couple points, and then Siege Rhino finishes it off.
Wow. Tight play on both sides there, but it ends up in favor of Hunter Nance. He is up 1-0 on Andrew Jessup in the Abzan mirror here. Some slight differences, though. Jessup with more low-end creatures and Hunter with more size.
Well, really what the game boiled down to is Nance found his copy of Wingmate Rock and Jessup did not. And in this kind of matchup, as long as someone isn't completely being blown out, Wingmate Rock's going to undo a lot of early advantages, and that's what you saw there. Jessup got off to a great start. When turn 2, Hangerback Walker, turn 3, Pump, Dromoka's command, got a Warden First Tree, and Hunter's first and second turn for his troubles. But Wingmate Rock undid that early advantage.
Or we'll go ahead and then look at the sideboards for both players as they have some things for the matchup. All right, first thing I'm focusing on, each player has a third Wingmate Rock. Those are no-brainers, but what else are they going to do? Let's start with Andrew Jessup.
We've got 3 Duresses, 2 Transgress the Minds, 3 Silk Wraps, 2 Ultimate Price, 2 Self-Inflicted Room, a Search of Righteousness, a Tassiger, and a Wingmate Rock. I think the 2 copies of Self-Inflicted Wound will come in here, as will the copy of Tassiger. I think Ultimate Price there's just too many targets it doesn't touch in this matchup. Silk Wrap is a possibility, and it's a good answer to Hangerback Walker. It's a little suspect to target other threats with because of the presence of Dromoka's command, but because of Hangerback Walker, it's likely to come in here as well.
Yeah. On Hunter Nance's side, we looked at some of these things. You said, so Wingmate Rock comes in. How do we feel about cards like Tragic Arrogance, some of these bigger sweepers in the matchup.
I think Tragic Arrogance is going to be very good here. It can be good in a lot of winning positions. If one of your creatures in play is a hanger back walker that has grown, it can also catch you up from a lot of losing spots. So I think Tragic Arrogance is definitely going to come in for Hunter Nance. We've already talked about the additional copy of Wingmate Rock. Past that, you have options like Silk Wrap, the additional copy of Dromoka's Command, capping out on Den Protectors in anticipation of a longer game, and Disdainful Stroke to keep Jessup off of his larger plays, especially Wingmate Rock. So I think Nance gets a little bit better of it in the sideboarded games.
Yeah, when I look at this, what it feels to me is that Andrew Jessup is obs on aggro, and that Hunter Nance boards into obs on mid-range or even control here.
Yeah, Nance is definitely better situated for a longer game. And because the spells that Jessup are bringing in to swing the matchup here are one-for-one spot removal spells, that doesn't really bother Nance that much. He's happier to play that sort of game when he's got bigger trumps like the counter spells and the 2 copies of Tragic Arrogance.
All right, so some updates on the other Players' Championship players playing for top 8 here. We had both Shaheen Sarani and Todd Anderson having to try to get by Eldrazi decks to make it into the top 8. Each of them lost game 1, but as we talked about, we watched Todd really clinic last round how to do that. Shaheen, in much the same way, won the first sideboarded game, and we'll see if both of them can really execute their lose game 1 and then obliterate post-board games in the matchup.
I think both players would tell you the same story about their deck. Their game 1 against Eldrazi is very poor. I'm not going to say unwinnable, but it's a huge hole they're in, and they're looking to catch it all up post-board with a mixture of infinite obliteration, counter spells, and just try to lock the Eldrazi deck out of the game.
Yeah, update. Both Todd and Shaheen taking game 2 after dropping a game. Both are in game 3s. If one of those is still going on, we will try to get to that one as well. The Eldrazi are great when you're unprepared, but if you can prepare for the Eldrazi invasion, then you stand a chance.
You can see Ross Miriam in the background there behind Andrew Jessup. Definitely a rooting interest in this game. Not sure for whom, but with all the Players' Championship implications here, he's definitely an interested party.
Talking to Ross about it, I think Hunter Nance is getting a big enough lead here that some of the players may be okay. You may just let him run off into the distance, get his Players' Championship invite. If a player like Andrew Jessup wins this open, that complicates things a lot as another player now enters the race.
Yeah, you're happy to let the people that are already out in front of you run away and have the people behind you stagger behind a little bit. So I would guess that Ross would prefer for Hunter Nance to win this one.
Well, that may just happen. Hunter Nance has a turn 1 Warden of the first tree. He's also up a game in a matchup that we both like for him.
Yeah, I like his sideboard quite a bit here. Counterspells and Tragic Arrogance are just 2 options that are better than anything Jessup brings to the table.
So we'll go back to Jessup. I believe he does have a removal spell for Warden of the first tree. Remember, he has self-inflicted wounds in his board. Card, though a removal spell, it's at its best when Andrew's ahead on the board. It's the kind of card that lets him get ahead and then really stay ahead.
Mm-hmm. And with Jessup being the aggressor here, self-inflicted wounds, these couple points do matter a lot from Jessup's side of the table. I think the late game, Nance has a pretty substantial advantage.
Yeah, those sweepers are so good. And we'll see from Jessup Silk Wrap for the Warden of the first tree.
Wants to save the self-inflicted wound for something like Siege Rhino that he can't kill with Silk Wrap.
Now, Silk Wrap to me seems dangerous in the matchup. It's very efficient, but this really powers up your opponent's Dromoka's commands.
I think the saving grace here for Silk Wrap is it's a very clean answer to Hanger Back Walker, and you don't care about Dromoka's command. It's not ideal for answering other threats, but if Hunter wants to use a Dromoka's command unleashing a Ward of the first tree, that's not the end of the world for Jessup in most spots.
Yeah, and that is a good point. If you Silk Wrap a Hanger Back Walker, no one cares if you lose the enchantment.
Yep.
Andrew follows up after the Silk Wrap, though, by playing Anafenza. Now we go to Hunter's third turn. Can he match pound for pound? If they trade creatures with kill spells each turn, I do like that for Hunter Nance.
Yep.
And once again, we see fetch for forest, fetch for basic plains, then go wild. Here's a blue-black duel. Both players doing that in their obs on aggro decks. And obs on chime for Hunter Nance.
And Hunter had the option there of playing Anafenza, and you can see he's definitely trying to position himself as the control deck. Not interested in Jessup untapping and landing a removal spell and hitting for a bunch of damage. Happy to settle in for a much longer game.
We go back over to Andrew Jessup. He's going to try to make another threat. Does have Siege Rhino in hand. We'll see if he has the land for it. But yeah, the board has been clean. For Jessup, it's going to be Obs Charm to draw 2 cards. I don't believe he had the land.
I think he would have slammed Siege Runner on the table if he could have cast it.
Warden of the First Tree, and does he hit the land? We will see. Yeah, a good one at that too. Shambling Vent for land 4. So now we pass back to Hunter Nance. Remember, in Hunter's deck, what he does have is he has a bigger game plan. He has Woodland Wander. That's a 6/6. Nothing really brawls with that on the ground. And does have Tragic Arrogance. But what he doesn't have that Andrew does is land number 4. Both players bricked on the 4th land. Andrew spent a turn drawing into it. For Hunter, he just played Anafenza, no 4th land, and passed back.
Now it'll be interesting to see what Jessup wants to do with his mana this turn. He has the option of casting Siege Rhino. That opens him up to a tempo swing if Nance can kill it. Or he can make the safer play, which is Silk Wrap your Anafenza and play a Warden of his own. Looks like Jessup going the safer route.
Yeah, passing the turn. Did not draw land 5, so the Warden will stay a 1/1 at least for now. But you're right. Each player has had the opportunity to, every turn when they're behind on the board, to play their own threat or remove their opponent's threat. And each of them seems to give priority to killing their opponent's threat.
There's such a high likelihood that whatever you cast dies that it's dangerous to let your opponent untap with a threat in play. There's also implications of Wingmate Rock. In general, you want to keep the board clean because that's the easiest way to prevent Wingmate Rock from getting raided. You don't want to fall behind, have someone untap with a creature in play, get to land number 5, and raid a Wingmate Rock.
Yeah, I suppose, and also if we trade creatures, then if you have the removal spell, the second player to play a creature then takes damage as a punishment.
Right.
And for Hunter Nance, he did hit land 4 on the following turn, and this is the card we talked about. This one's exclusive to Nance's deck. This is Woodland Wanderer. For the second game in a row, he has it at full power as a 6/6. And I'll say, Warden of the First Tree does not look impressive next to this guy. But fortunately for Jessup, he's at the ready with a kill spell. It's Self-Inflicted Wound. The 6/6 is sacrificed. Warden becomes a 3/3, and a swing with 5 total damage on the turn. He has Hunter to 11.
I was actually expecting Woodland Wanderer to get boarded out in this matchup.
Just because it dies.
4-mana creature with no enters the battlefield trigger just will die a lot at a tempo disadvantage. Self-inflicted wound being the worst case scenario, but there's all sorts of examples of that card dying and Jessup getting the better of the exchange as a result.
Well, here's a 4-mana creature everyone can get behind. It's Siege Rhino on Hunter's side. That'll come down and undo some of the damage. Hunter back up to 14.
Yeah, no siding this one out.
No,
this one stays in.
No one's ever said, man, all I can do is play Siege Rhino. It's good when you're behind. It's good when you're ahead. It's good early, late. It's just good.
Yeah, just good. And in a matchup that's a lot about things trading and everything just kind of dies, something with a powerful enters the battlefield trigger is very valuable.
And are really overloaded on removal here. Looks like he may have another Self-Inflicted Wound, a Surge of Righteousness. Tons of options to deal with creatures. So the Rhino will wound itself, Hunter to 12, and attack will send Hunter to 9. Jessup has him down to single digits, but still the lone threat is Warden of the First Tree. And another Siege Rhino. A whole crash of rhinos coming out of the hand for Hunter. And this is the punishment. Even when you kill Siege Rhino, every single turn when they play it, you look at the life totals and you know, Jessup's not making progress. The enters the battlefield trigger is just so good.
Yep. Especially with Nance trying to buy time here, get some more mana in play, get to his larger plays. These triggers are very valuable.
Well, here's a swing from Warden of the First Tree. Hunter blocks. Surge of Righteousness takes care of the Rhino. Jessup back to 11. He'll play a land. It looks like he has something post-combat. You look at just how many kill spells out of the board here for Andrew. Andrew has played Silk Wrap, Self-Inflicted Wound, Surge of Righteousness this game. That is a lot of removal.
And Nance doesn't have quite the same density of those effects. What he's trying to do is have a more powerful top end with Tragic Arrogance.
A morph into play for Andrew. That's Den Protector. If you have a bunch of cheap removal, Den Protector is a great thing to do with it.
If the game is, if Jess is able to get out in front a little bit early, his sideboard package is very good because he's going to be swallowing up Nance's turns for 2 mana, for 3 mana.
A shrug from Hunter. It's the best he can do for a third straight turn. He casts Siege Rhino.
But he knows that's not very good here, as Jessup is going to be able to unmorph the Den Protector, get back a removal spell, kill it, and attack for a lot of damage.
Yeah, and the removal spell of choice is probably self-inflicted wound, so that life gain from Rhino is more or less negated as well. Jessup with a Rhino of his own in hand. And that's been interesting. You know, Jessup's been trading cheap kill spells for Hunter's Rhinos. Even though Jessup has a Rhino in hand, never is finding a window to play it. A little bit of a discussion with the judge. We're going to bring you back into the booth while they figure that out, let you know what's happening. So Hunter Nance currently up a game on Andrew Jessup. And, you know, I expected Hunter Nance to go bigger post board, but Jessup is combating that very well here, just with a flurry of cheap removal.
So there's two different ways to approach the matchup. One way is just have the best stuff. And that's Hunter Nance's plan for the matchup. He's got counter spells that can be excellent and close off a lot of Jessup's top end. He's got Tragic Arrogance, which of the 150 cards between the two decks, I think is just objectively the most powerful one. There's the other way to approach the matchup, which is be the first person to be able to cast 2 spells in 1 turn. That's often a winning recipe in Obzon mirror matches where there's so many chunky spells. And Jessup, with all of his cheap interaction, is the first person to get to 2 spells very often. So you're seeing Jessup here in a pretty good position because he's been able to cast multiple things in a turn, while Hunter has been struggling to cast multiple spells in a turn.
All right, so after Hunter plays the third Rhino, Andrew Jessup, he goes for the on-board play. That's Unmorphed Den Protector, get back Self-Inflicted Wound, kill the Rhino, swing in for 6, deal a total of 8 to Hunter, drop him to 7, see if he can do anything more. You know, and you really pointed that out, that 2 spells per turn thing is so relevant. Jessup played a kill, so every turn has been Hunter plays a creature, Jessup plays a kill spell. Has been actually every turn, except for one of those turns, Andrew played a Silk Wrap and a Warden. He had a second spell. The next turn he played another kill spell and pumped Warden. And that 3 damage just carried over every single turn.
On top of that, you saw the turn where he was able to kill a Siege Rhino and get a Morph face down. The next turn, the Den Protector unmorphed, got back a removal spell. Not quite 2 spells in 1 turn, but at least made a threat much better and answered Hunter's turn. And Hunter has just been slowly but surely getting buried by these tempo sequences.
Quite literally, starting on turn 3, Andrew Jessup has played a kill spell every single turn of the game. And as you have it, that'll be too much. You know, for the 6th running turn, or was it 7th? Sometimes I'm losing count, but for the 7th, I think 7th straight turn, Andrew kills a creature, attacks, and Hunter can't keep pace anymore.
And a lot of people critique the Obzon mirror match as just count up who drew the more Siege Rhinos and that person wins. That was 3-0.
Yeah,
Nance cast 3 of them and Jessup cast 0, and Jessup won pretty commandingly. To me, casting 2 spells in 1 turn, whoever's doing that more frequently is usually the person who's ahead. Nance does have a potential catch-up in Tragic Arrogance. All those little tempo exchanges and Jessup pushing ahead on the board, that can be undone pretty easily if Nance gets to Tragic Arrogance, but he needs to have some board in play to really leverage it and get to 5 mana, and neither occurred that game.
Yeah, I remember that last season playing Obzon Control versus Obzon Aggro. What you were always most scared of from the aggro deck was their ability to play 2 spells. You know, you never wanted to see them play you know, Dermoka's Command plus Fleece Main Lion on turn 4. That was better than a Siege Rhino against you.
Yep.
And we go back to the sideboards. Can Nance change? I don't know if he has another way to approach the matchup.
Not really. Well, I said already my piece about the Woodland Wanderer. I don't think it's very good in the matchup, and I think it's going to involve some negative tempo swings most of the time that Nance casts it. I'm not sure what he sided out to make room for his variety of cards, because he's got a lot of good ones to bring in, but I would not have that card in my deck in this matchup.
Yeah. Just a quick update on the judge call. Both players were assessed a warning. A battle duel entered the battlefield untapped when it actually should not have. It was caught, and then both players given a warning. No previous warnings, means the match continues. Yep. And some updates from across the field. Todd Anderson with a win. That puts him into top 8. Once again, dropping game 1 to Eldrazi, and that is it. Takes both the sideboarded games. So we will see him in the top 8. On Shaheen Sarani's side of Esper Control, got one of the post-board games, but the unlosable matchup turned out to be losable. Shaheen picks up a 4th loss and a top 16 finish.
It's hard to have an unlosable matchup when you're giving away game 1.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't care how good your sideboard is. You will mulligan, miss land drops, not draw your sideboard cards, whatever. So.
Well, unless you're Todd Anderson, because in his last 6 games played, they were all against Eldrazi. And let me tell you, he didn't get any of the game ones.
I doubt Todd would claim his matchup was unlosable.
That much is sir. But we'll see Todd and his Jeskai Black deck in the top 8. A nice finish for him at 12-3. Remember, the winner of this will join in the top 8. We had the top 2 tables, 4 players at 12 and 2. All of them in the top 8, including Matt Tumovich. You saw him at 8-0 playing Obs on Aggro yesterday. He did pick up a loss to Tyler Barnett. Both of them were at 8-0, playing for undefeated last round. Both we'll see in the top 8. Barnett was the one who was able to knock down Shaheen Sarani for the invitation, for the spot. Turns out when you start out 8-0, you have a lot of chances to make it into the top 8.
Yep.
Both of them get in.
It's a good way to start.
Game 3, though, this is Hunter Nance and Andrew Jessup. Hunter on the play. As we are underway, he starts out on Warden of the First Tree. Last game, 7 consecutive threats of Hunters were answered by kill spells. We'll see if he can stick any of them this game.
And Nance should be in better shape here just on the play for game number 3. A lot more likely to get out on the front foot and then avoid the tempo swings that were so disastrous for him in game number 2.
And Warden on Andrew's side as well. So we'll look, those two will trade. And yeah, on the play, there is that pressure that when you're on the play that you get to be the first player to wingmate rock.
There's enough fuzziness post-board where, that's not a guarantee. Jessup has enough removal that I think that's his plan to keep Nance off of wingmate rock. You're never going to be able to bat 1,000.
Sure.
Your opponent's going to sneak it through some percent of the time, but Jessup's density of removal is his best weapon in preventing wingmate rock from getting raided. And Nance's side, he can either counter it with Disdainful Stroke or just play catch-up with Tragic Arrogance. So 2 different philosophies.
Tapped Prairie Stream into play for Hunter Nance. Nonetheless, he will offer the trade of Wardens. Andrew Jessup, though, declines. So despite being on the draw, Jessup's Warden may get to become the 3-3 first, putting him ahead in the race. And that's what he'll do. Pumps Warden, makes it a 3-3, swings in. Something of note in Standard MS with Warden, we've seen it a lot this weekend from a variety of decks, whether they are Megamorph or Obs on Aggro. He turns into a 3-3 frequently. I don't know if we've seen either the second or third ability ever used.
Well, with Obs on Charm and all the removal spells, it's a hard way to spend 4 mana, 6 mana. So unlikely to work. But just getting a 3-3 and getting the ball rolling here is still very good.
On Nance's side, his turn 3 play was another dual land, a pump of Warden of the First Tree, and a swing. All colors now available, all 5 for Hunter Nance, but what an investment for this mana. He had to have a second and third lands come into play tapped and made no further commitment to the board.
Yeah, Nance has had to play off curve here a couple turns in a row, and that can happen on your openings of basic into battle land. The third battle land can be prohibitive. Nance wasn't able to pump his Warden on the second turn of the game, nor was he able to cast Anafenza on the third turn of the game. So it's almost like Jessup has been on the play this game and up a card.
Well, if you look at the board, it literally took Nance 3 turns to accomplish what Jessup did in 2. And he's paid a price for it both in life points and now in the fact that Jessup is the first player to get Anafenza down.
And now the tempo of the game has swung quite a bit here. Now Nance either can't attack this turn or has to spend his entire turn removing Anafenza. Jessup then gets to untap, fire back with all of his mana available.
Warden on the First Tree is going to continue crashing in. No sense in leaving it back to block. If there's an attack that happens, that's not going to work. We do see a block here, though, from Jessup. This is a great spot for Dromoka's Command if Nance has it. And this is huge. I was surprised to see Jessup block here. He's going to lose his whole board to Dromoka's Command.
Well, it's Nance's whole turn. He's unlikely to follow up with a 2-mana play. The board is now completely clean, so Jessup can not have to worry about wingmate rock for a little while. And Jessup still gets to initiate the action next turn. He gets to put something in play first. So yes, it's a risky block, and it doesn't look good on the surface, but it's still even in terms of cards, and it was Nance's whole turn. If Nance showed more cards over the course of the matchup where he could be productive with the 2 mana left over, maybe Jessup doesn't run a block there. But Nance's draws have been pretty chunky, and if you're positive you're going to get Nance's whole turn out of the bargain, that's not too bad. there's not even enough cards in the graveyard for Jessup to have to worry about Murderous Cut on his play with all the leftover mana. So Jessup still gets to keep the initiative and keep the board clean for Wingmate Rock.
That is a good point. So Jessup will be the first player to rebuild here. He goes for land 4. See what kind of follow-up he has. A lot of things available. I believe Jessup is actually the one with Wingmate Rock at the moment. So whatever 4-drop he has, there'll be pressure on Nance to have a removal spell.
And now Jessup's in the position where he gets to start playing threats with enters the battlefield triggers or that generates card advantage. Nance has to spend his whole turn responding to it. And if Nance ever lets his shields down, that's a window for Jessup to raid Wingmate Rock and get way ahead in the game.
Yeah, we'll see face down morph for Jessup. Nance is going to go ahead and fetch here with that Wooded Foothills he played last turn.
And keep in mind, Jessup's the one with a lot of cheap tempo plays in the deck here. So if Nance's whole response is, here's a big creature, Siege Rhino or Woodland Wanderer or what have you, it's possible Jessup gets to go, here's a cheaper removal spell, and I have something left over to do with my mana.
Yeah, I mean, Jessup, if you look at that trade, it's a 2-for-2. The fact that Jessup now has Den Protector and Wingmate Rock, I can really see why he wants to make that play.
It's a 2-for-2, but it's Nance's whole turn, and Nance has already been playing off curve and inefficiently on the earlier turns, so his turns are quite valuable.
We go over to Hunter Nance. He's going to play Siege Rhino, leaves up a Prairie Stream and passes. Now, keep in mind, there is a copy of Stubborn Denial in Hunter Nance's hand.
Yeah, this is Hunter Nance's version of catch up 2 spells in 1 turn, tempo type of swing. If he swallows up Jessup's turn here with the Stubborn Denial, and it looks likely if this Abzan Charm goes after Siege Rhino.
Wow, what a coup this is going to be. Very few 1-mana spells, and yeah, Nance couldn't do it faster. Abzan Charm from Jessup, Stubborn Denial from Nance, and that's a big win for Hunter.
Yeah, Nance needs to follow up with something good here. And even more pressure at this point is solid for him as Jessup's at 10, likely to falling to 6 from this attack. But this is the window where Nance has broken serve. He's got a threat to play and answer Jessup's entire turn. And if he can follow up with Wingmate Rock, the advantage might be insurmountable.
And do you think for a point, maybe Jessup just wasn't expecting the card? He could have swung with the morph, lost it, played Wingmate Rock. Not the best, but still good. I almost feel like when he played Abzan Charm, he was just kind of expecting it to work.
I don't know, 16 to 10. I don't think it's a lock that Jessup wins this game by resolving it. It could have also just as easily been Dispel. There's a lot of cards on Jessup's radar. I think that the alternative is just a little too anemic.
And now Hunter Nance with great board presence. Siege Rhino crashes in. That puts Jessup down to 6, and Hunter Nance follows up with a pair of threats. It's Warden of the First Tree and Woodland Wanderer, the 6/6, all into play. 6 is now enough to be lethal by itself. And great cards in Andrew Jessup's hand, but he needs to get them out here pronto. There's a lot of things to answer.
Well, he can use a removal spell on the Woodland Wanderer. He can trade with the Warden of the First Tree. This all assumes Nance's hand is empty. And then he can follow up and answer the Siege Rhino and be at 2 or 3 life, depending on how he blocks. It's not hopeless, but he needs Nance to be missing. There can be nothing left over in his hand of substance, and he has to miss on his draws for a couple turns. But it's not inconceivable.
We'll see what Jessup can do. The Den Protector did get back an Abzan Charm and take care of one of the threats, as you mentioned. Jessup will go to 5 off the fetch land.
Hunter also knows that his position in this game can be undone just by Tragic Arrogance. There's none in Jessup's list. Nance doesn't necessarily know that, so even though he's way ahead and that Stubborn Denial turn was great, he can't feel too comfortable because Jessup could undo this advantage in a variety of ways.
Yeah, well, last game he saw such a flurry of cheap kill spells from Andrew. He saw multiple Silk Wraps, multiple self-inflicted wounds. I mean, it doesn't take much of many of those style cards for Andrew just to clean up the board on Hunter's side. What I do like of Hunter's board is that the large creatures have trample. That certainly will help. We see Andrew uses the Abzan Charm on the Woodland Wanderer. It's going to Silk Wrap the Warden of the First Tree. That's that stream of removal we were talking about. But the last land in play is not black. No threat of Murderous Cut. And now at 5, Jessup's got to decide if he wants to swing with Den Protector. If he's not blocking, he might as well be attacking. But this is a commitment of going to 1.
Yep. Well, the question is, can you beat anything?
Yeah, this will leave him dead to Abzan Charm, to Siege Rhino. He was likely already dead to those cards.
That's my philosophy, too. I think that it's very unlikely that there's any spell that you can beat by holding your Den Protector back that you can't beat by attacking.
Yeah, he's already dead to a removal spell. He's dead to Obzon Charm. He's dead to Siege Rhino. He's dead to Dromoka's Command. Might as well just accept that fate, and that's what he does. Swings, plays Warden of the First Tree, and we're on Hunter's side. Here's a very quick swing. I believe he has the Obzon Charm. Maybe not. No, he's going to 1. No, he does not. It's just Anafenza. So Andrew's apologies. He is still alive. The Gambit pays off.
Yep.
Has Nance at 13. Can he stay alive? Has a Wingmate Rock in hand. That's one of the most important cards. This one's close. Jessup trying to thread the needle. Come back from behind. He had 2 kill spells and a threat last turn. All of that's excellent.
I think he just has to run the Warden into the Abyss here.
It does give him 8 toughness. I mean, he has to absorb all that power from Siege Rhino. It has trample.
Yep.
But he has to pick which creature to run into the Abyss. I guess he's going for Den Protector instead.
That's a pretty gutsy play here. I think Nance there ran a no block.
Wingmate Rock, and it's Disdainful Stroke from Hunter Nance. He had it covered, and there you have it. At 12-3, it is Hunter Nance and Obzon Blue into the top 8.
Yeah, I think that Nance there ran a no block to play around Dromoka's Command. Didn't want to have any sort of trade there. Knew that he had a big spell covered with Disdainful Stroke. That was Jessup's follow-up there, and Nance now onto the top 8.
Wow, and then congratulations for Hunter Nance. 5th in the Players' Championship race. This top 8 could really seal it up for him. For Andrew Jessup, the loss will drop him into top 16. A great finish on the weekend, but he needed a big cache of points.
Yes, still good for Jessup and will likely be in the top 16. Alex 3-1 almost certainly. Hunter Nance here, another Open Series top 8. He was a finalist in Charlotte in Modern earlier this year and now has one in Standard.
All right, well, congratulations once again to Hunter.